Ellie, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, so a little bit of a surprise, unless you've listened to any of my podcasts. I start off with 10 quick fire questions that are a bit of fun just to break the ice for you and the listeners.
Okay, that's great. That's exciting. I like that.
Okay, so number one, your favourite food?
Pizza.
Oh, yes. Number two, with you on that, girl. Favourite time of your day?
The evening.
Number three, dogs or cats?
Cats.
Number four, 1 to 3 books that you would recommend for someone to read in the body positive, food freedom kind of realm.
Honestly, I don't read a lot of self-love books, actually. I read more mental health books, to be honest. I've got this one right here, It's Okay Not to Be Okay. Ooh. And it's really lovely because you can just randomly go on pages and it will just give you something. Like here it says, it might not be easy, but it will be worth it. And it just gives you like little bits of motivation. And I really like those books because sometimes when I'm reading too much, I forget things. So when I just read like a little thing, it's usually more powerful for me. And I know there's a lot of people like that too.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So I'll pop the link. If you can send me, if you have a link or anything that you get a little bit for, then send it me and I'll pop it in the notes for the book.
Great. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, number 5. Are you a night owl or an early riser?
I'm an early riser, definitely.
Me too. Number 6, if this is relevant to you, what's the most ridiculous diet you've ever followed or know that someone has followed?
Slimming World. I hated it.
It's when the avocado is like 6 sins or something. You're like,
yes,
okay, how can this be healthy?
It's ridiculous. Honestly, I did it for like 2 weeks and I was like, no, I am depressed from this.
Agree with that. Okay, number 7, this is like a finish my sentence kind of question, which is a question. So when I experience a bad body image trigger, I
remind myself to be kind to myself and that it is a moment of negativity and it won't last forever.
Powerful. Number 8, describe yourself in 3 words.
Kind, caring, loving.
Lovely. Okay, I'm excited for your answer to this one. Number 9, what's the first thing you would do if you was Prime Minister or President or whatever?
Oh, that's a big question,
It is.
I honestly don't know. There's a lot that I would want to change.
Free chocolate?
Free chocolate with every time of the month.
Yes. I mean, you're sure you get a lot of men that are not okay with that, but
yes, and free period products. We need that.
Yeah, true that. Just curious, what, if you don't mind sharing, what period products do you use? Like, what are you vibing with at the moment?
My favorite period products is period pants because they just don't feel like I'm wearing anything. It just feels like, because I do wear tampons sometimes, but they get uncomfortable a lot, and sometimes pads feel like they're too heavy down there. But I use menstrual cups from time to time as well, which I really do like them. And I know they're very much something that not everyone loves. But I think once you get used to them, they're really good, honestly.
Yeah, I've tried cups and I don't know if I was doing it wrong. First of all, the first thing that happened is it got stuck because I don't know what my womb is doing, but I think it must go sideways because I put it all in and folded it all up and I was like, okay, we can do this. We do yoni eggs, next step menstrual cups. And then I put it in and it was fine. Then it was like a bit uncomfortable. Then I was like, shit, I can't get it out. So I rang my friend like, seriously, how do you get this out? And she was like, well, first of all, relax. And I'm like, yeah, but now, and then I was like panicking, which doesn't help.
I really sideways. Because when I first, this might be a bit TMI, but when I first put mine in, I was like that because obviously it's like suctions it, doesn't it? So it like it's hard to pull out. And at first I was like, oh my god, it's stuck. What am I gonna do? And then I kind of tried to push it out myself and pull it at the same time, and then it came out. But because it was my first time, I left it in too long, and then honestly blood went everywhere. It went everywhere.
I went in the shower. So my friend's advice was go in the shower, pretend you're doing a poo, her words, not mine, and just push and pull. And then I was glad I was in the shower because it spilled everywhere. So it takes a bit of practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It is scary at first, but I really do think that they're worth it.
Yeah, I love how we've talked about that already. Okay.
Me too.
Last question. I reached out to you and invited you on the pod, and I'm obviously so grateful you said yes, but why did you say yes to coming and sharing your message today?
I love, I haven't actually listened to a lot of your podcast yet, but when you was telling me about all of what you do it about and about eating disorder recovery and stuff like that, like it just drew me in straight away. Anything that I feel could help people or make people feel less alone, I am definitely in.
I love that. And I'm going to start off your questions actually by reading the answer that you answered in terms of what do you want people to take away from this podcast. So I think it's beautiful to start off with this. So I quote the wonderful Ellie, and she says, if I can get more people to accept themselves and realize the way we look is the least important thing about us, and that we shouldn't let our insecurities rule our life, then I've achieved what I wanted. So
Yes.
Dig in. I'm so excited for this. Okay, first, I mean, I have a list of questions, but also intuitively, if it goes different directions, it's all perfect.
Perfect.
Can you share a little bit about your story and how you ended up being the incredible influencer that you are today?
Well, I have been very, very up and down with my weight, and with having depression, I've had times where I've gained a lot of weight from just sort of indulging in food from sadness, and I've also had times where I've lost a lot of weight from not eating from sadness. And throughout the many sizes I have been, I realized that it was never about that. It was never about the size, and it was always about how I saw myself, because no matter what size you are, you're always going to try and pick on something that you don't like if your mindset's not in the right place with it, you know. And I just sort of figured that out myself, and then I started to go on Instagram, where I found Nellie London, and she is the first person I ever saw with hip dips, and it was always a massive insecurity about mine. Whatever size I was like, I don't like my hip dips. I just didn't like them. And when I saw Nellie have them and Nellie embraced them, I was like, wow, like that changed so much for me, just literally seeing someone else have them. And then I thought how many people I could help if I just embraced my body, because it just takes one person to embrace their body for it to be sort of a pattern, and then other people do, and then it continues. Because even now that the self-love movement is such a big thing, it has made so many more people that you would never even think would be like that, be more embracing of their natural stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that so much. And honestly, one of the main things that I encourage my clients to do in terms of improving their body image is to go and look at women their size or bigger on the internet every day for at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. It helps so much, and people don't realize how much it can actually help.
It really does. It's like the biggest permission slip. Not that we need a permission slip, but we're human, so we need to learn and feel safe to show up as our authentic self. But that's what helped me massively, and I absolutely loved. I think this is when I reached out to you. I followed you anyway for ages, but the reel of you just reminded you of me running in your underwear in the middle of a field and just being so fucking happy. I was like, I need that girl on my podcast.
Oh, it was so fun, so empowering doing that, honestly. I just went to this viewpoint that's near where I live with two of my best friends, and I was wearing like that set underneath my clothes, and I just thought, we were sitting there looking at the view, and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna get in my underwear and run around. so that's what I did. And then a friend who's with me now actually recorded it all for me, and then I put it into
Amazing. Honestly, so much permission slips that you're handing out to so many women, me included. So you're just such an inspiration.
Thank you. That means so much.
Really, I mean it. And so why do you think women in general, men also, but primarily women, are just so hung up with the way they look and have so many insecurities these days?
I think a lot of it is to do with society standards and what we see in the media. And even from a young age, like when we would watch like Disney princesses or stuff, they would be one certain way, and everyone who was perceived as beautiful, let's say, was one certain way. And I think naturally, like, how could that not affect us as we grow up? How can we not see ourselves as bad if everything we are seeing is completely different and that's what seems to be acceptable? And we're pushed by diet culture all the time as well. Like every time it comes to summer, it's always like the ads like, oh, do you want to get summer body ready and stuff like that? And then we get pressured to feel like we need to lose weight or be a certain size or be different. And obviously the trends with life, it changes all the time. Like it like there's so many posts about so many different trends, and it goes from like stick thin, and then now everyone wants a big bum and like the right curves but still like slim at the same time. It just changes all the time, and it's not worth it because you can't change your body as rapidly as the trends change.
Oh, amen to that. And in terms of like the Disney characters, I think that's really key, and most people often overlook that, because if you think, I mean, I'm thinking of the Little Mermaid right now for some reason. The evil bad character in the film is usually in a larger body, doesn't have a classically pretty face, and so even the opposite of that, the evil ones for some reason aren't slim and aren't classed as beautiful. No wonder, like from the age of like what, 3 or something,
literally 100%. It's just not possible to run away from it.
No.
So I completely understand why so many people feel that way, and it's why I'm so passionate to do what I do, because I don't want anyone to feel that way.
Yeah. And one of my clients actually shared this with me. She's a psychologist, and she shared this with me a couple of weeks ago, and it really resonated with me. So I want to share it today. In terms of like, let's say, how tall are you, if you don't mind sharing?
I'm 5'4".
5'4". Yeah, and I'm 5'3", so we're both similar sizes. Have you ever considered or tried to change your height apart from wearing heels, like your actual physical height of your body in your life?
I haven't tried, but I have definitely wanted to a lot of the times. And the funny thing is, I've wanted to be taller and I've wanted to be smaller, and it just doesn't make sense.
Isn't it right? And so often, even though we want to be taller or shorter, I've experienced both also, we know that we cannot change the height of our bodies when we're a full-grown adult. And then what gets me is, and I know this is like a rabbit hole I'm kind of going down, but I just want to touch on it briefly. I personally don't believe we can control our bodies if we're living in our authentic selves, eating when we're hungry, allowing foods, stopping when we're full. So if in the world of no diet, we can't control our bodies, so therefore, why do most women spend their whole entire lives trying to control their body through their food, when I believe body size is mainly genetics, environment, and just life factors?
100%. I completely agree with that, because there's times like where you will put a bit of weight on and where you will lose weight depending on your circumstance or your lifestyle at the time, and it's completely fine to go up and down in weight because everyone does, and it's natural. Like we have like certain parts of our body because we need to be able to stretch. Like our bodies need to be elastic, and people expect us or want us to be like one certain way because we see like a picture of someone being one certain way, but they're never like that at all times. No. Even the slimmest people have like stretch marks and rolls and stuff because we need to move. We need to have that room in our body.
Exactly. And as a woman with a healthy menstrual cycle, as you know, we need fat storage to be safe to have a baby, whether you want a baby or not. Your body doesn't care about whether you're going to have one. It's like, you are a woman, therefore you need to have enough stores to have a baby and be healthy and all of that. And so when I was in my eating disorders, my period stopped completely because my body was like, oh, not safe, not a safe environment to actually produce life. So your menstrual cycle can be a sign of health, can't it? And happiness, really.
100%. And it's so common for people to lose their periods when they're deep in an eating disorder as well, because of how much it does affect your body.
Yeah.
And we always need to eat. We always need to eat.
Always, whether you ate a lot the day before, whether you got a holiday. you need to eat. It's like, I always like to refer, when I talk to clients, refer it to either their children, or if they don't have children, their pets. And if you was to treat your pet or your child the same way that you've been treating yourself over the last 5 years, most of them would either be in prison for child abuse or animal abuse.
Literally. It's crazy.
Like, no, sorry, gorgeous dog, you can't eat tonight because, you know, I think your fur's looking a bit too fluffy or something.
Exactly. So why do we do it to ourselves?
Exactly. And let's dive into that. So in my opinion, the world's biggest fear for women is weight gain. So have you previously been scared of gaining weight before? And if so, how did you just overcome that and embrace it?
I have definitely been scared of weight gain, and I think it's mainly because we're taught that it's bad when it's not. Like, sometimes people have weight gain for all different kinds of reasons, and for me, a lot of the time when I've gained weight, it's either from me being depressed or just living how I want to, and that's fine. Like, I would rather have the life that I want than restrict myself from eating, and weight gain is literally just a part of that, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As I've said previously, your appearance is the least important thing about you, and anytime I would ever be scared about my weight gain, that's what I would tell myself, because regardless, like, for example, with your friends or your family, they see you as you. You are you regardless of your weight gain or your weight loss. You're still you, and people love you for what's inside, not for what's outside. So regardless of the weight gain, you're still as worthy and as amazing and as much you as you always have been. And I think it's when you sort of like learn that and then remind yourself that in those moments, that weight gain becomes easier.
I agree. You know that old saying from Kate Moss, and she said something like, oh, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, nothing feels as good as food fucking freedom and body
100%.
liberation.
100%. I think
so
food freedom is so important, and so many people don't have that. So many people don't.
It's so normal to be either on a diet or at least trying to be good, in quotes.
100%.
And then when people who aren't in my world, like, I just meet them on, I don't know, days out or with family, and they ask me like what I do, and I explain a little bit, they literally look at me like I'm like, hold up, wait, so you teach women how to not diet? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, but then won't they just getting bigger and bigger and bigger forever? And what about health? And I'm like, oh my God, I love all these questions. Like, how long have you got? Because you don't have to diet just because you're born.
100%. People like make their whole lives about diet, but what fun is that?
Yes.
That is not fun. That is not living your life to the fullest.
No. And I think that, you know, the likes of you and I, who are in food freedom and are just liberated with who we are authentically, we're being more of ourselves, because we're not suppressing ourselves or wasting
100%.
our thoughts on, can I eat this? How many sins is this? And we're just living fully.
And you miss out on so many opportunities when you're so focused on how your body looks and what you're eating. Like, so many people don't go to events or stuff because they might not have the food that they can eat, or I don't know, just stuff like that. And then they miss out on opportunities just because they're trying to keep up with an image that they never needed to in the first place.
It's sad. I remember, God, it would have been when I was bulimic, so about 6 years ago. It's not a million miles ago. I was so in my eating disorder. If someone would have surprised me and said to me, Victoria, tomorrow I'm taking you to the Bahamas on like a month holiday, no shit, I would not have gone, because I needed to diet before there's no way. My anxiety, and I mean, looking back now, that is insane, but I genuinely wouldn't have gone because I had so much anxiety about the way I looked, and it's just so sad.
It really is so sad. I personally haven't had an eating disorder. I've had disordered eating, but that's mainly within my depression. But my best friend had quite a severe eating disorder, and I was very much there with her the whole time, and like all of that stuff. So that's how I'm quite passionate with eating disorders and why I talk about them a lot, and I want to help people with them because I've seen what it can do to a person, even though it wasn't personally me.
Yeah, but still you're, the root of 99.9% of the time through my experience and through that of my clients, the root cause of disordered eating or eating disorders is lack of like self-love and not liking the way your body looks. And so what you're doing is actually at the root of 99.9% of eating disorders anyway. And so that's
100%.
so important, because if we were just to all wake up tomorrow and love ourselves as we were without needing to change or to be a work in progress, like, can you imagine like how different the world would be?
And so many people act like self-love is a trend, and it's not. It is a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's everything. It's holding yourself through the shit times without trying to like positivity plaster your way through it. It's things like having your nails done, and it's like so much. It's not just a hashtag self-love.
100%.
Pretend we love our, but it goes so much deeper than that, doesn't it?
100%. It's so deep.
Yeah. How would you, or what advice would you give someone, because this, again, the fear of judgment from others is so common. How did you navigate that, like in terms of your body image and what others might think of you, and like how did you navigate that? What advice would you give to someone who really struggles with that anxiety, what others think about them?
I think with that, it's very hard to not be affected by what other people say or what other people think, but it pretty much every single time someone has something bad to say, it comes from their insecurities. And when you sort of learn that and realize that, it becomes easier to sort of fight the negativity and the comments off, because you realize that it's coming from a place that they're upsetting themselves, they're not happy in themselves. And then when you think about it like that, it comes across more sad for them and never actually anything to do with us or how we look, because it's no one's business how we look or how we are. It's just not. And when people are truly happy in themselves, they don't care what anyone else looks like or what anyone else is doing. And that's just the main thing to remember in that moment for me.
Yeah, I agree fully. Like, I believe the world is a mirror. So like people are a mirror, like the world is a mirror. So that if we have insecurities about the way we look, we attract that experience back to us in our lives. And they might have more people who are judging their appearance or saying not very kind things. But if you choose to believe that, you know what, I'm enough exactly as I am, and go and live that, even if it's fake it till you make it, because I'm a big advocate of that, and just be the person that actually is happy with who they are, the whole world mirrors that back to you. And then, like you said, it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, it like the more work you put in, the more it gets to a point where these things aren't at the top of your mind anymore.
Yeah. And I think there's a quote I want to share, and I think it was from Summer Inanen. She's a body image coach in America. And she says, loving my body is a mindset I create for myself.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
Isn't that so true?
So true. That gave me goosebumps, actually.
Loving my body is a mindset I create for myself. And there's proof of this, because so many of my clients will see, and I used to do the same. I don't know, Facebook will bring an old photo up like, oh, this was you 4 or 5 years ago, whatever. And then the old me would be like, oh, I wish I was in that smaller body, blah, blah, blah. But then the photo that I was looking at, I remember at the time when it was taken, I felt exactly the same way about my body as I did when I was wishing. So no matter how small or big you are, if you're not in the mindset or in the true self-love alignment, nothing's ever going to be good enough. What you said.
100%. It's all about mindset. And people seem to think that they're going to get the body image or get to the size that they want and they're going to be better, but they're not. They'll find something else.
100%. Even when I was like 9% body fat doing fitness modeling, yes, I was proud in quotes of the body I'd achieved, but then it was never fucking good enough. And I was even more obsessed with keeping it, and so anxious that my abs would go. And if I'd gone for a poo that day, it would ruin my whole life if I hadn't. It was just, it's not a way to live. And regardless of all the compliments I got, it doesn't fill you up. It's just like a hole. The compliments go in, fill the hole for like a second, and then go straight back out again. So,
and that's the thing with the compliments as well. This is why people just shouldn't comment on other people's bodies, because they fuel eating disorders.
Yeah, 100%. And I really am so cautious with what I say to women. So if I generally like love their style or the clothing that they chose or their makeup, I'm just like, oh my God, you are on fucking fire today.
Yeah.
Because it's an energy as well. Like, you have such amazing energy. It's very confident, bold, fun, playful. That is
so for you, honestly.
Thank you. That's way more important than, well, I think your boobs are awesome.
Yes,
even though I do, but you know.
100%.
It is. And talking of body image and how like others perceive us and how we perceive ourselves, do you think it's possible, and I'll use myself as an example, to go from, because I used to hate the cellulite on my legs, it was just like my kryptonite. And do you think it's possible for someone to go from hating a part of their body to genuinely liking it? Or do you think only neutrality is possible in that scenario?
I think with some stuff you do just have to accept it, but it is 100% possible to love something when you used to hate it, because I've done it. And I used to hate so many things. I used to hate my hip dips, I used to hate my cellulite, I used to hate my stretch marks, but I literally love every part of that now. I see like my belly sticking over or something, and then I'm like, I love that. And that's all stuff that I once didn't even want to look at, didn't even want to know I had, but I see that now and I'm like, that's beautiful. Like the other day I took a picture in the mirror, and it was like from behind, and you could see like where the lighting was, you could see loads of cellulite in my legs, and I get cellulite on the back of my legs more than the front. I don't know why, but I just do.
Me too. Around my knees.
Yes, yeah, I do. So, and I looked at that picture and I was like, that just looks beautiful. That just looks like waves like you see on the ocean, you know, like you see the beauty in the curves and the I don't know, the powerfulness of the world. Why can't we see it in ourselves?
Yeah. Wow.
Like I did a post a really long time ago. It was when I very, very, very early on started this. But I said, if we like, it was something along the lines of, if we can appreciate the stripes of a tiger, why can't we appreciate the stripes of us?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Just let that sink in, like everyone listening and watching, because we are a part of nature.
100%.
It's only because we live in houses or fancy apartments or whatever, but if you go back a few hundreds of years, probably more so than that, we were living on the land, like in fucking huts and stuff.
Exactly. And with cellulite, I really just see it as the waves of the ocean, and that's beautiful. We all love looking at the sea.
I'm gonna have that perspective, because for me personally, and I'm always vulnerable with my listeners, I'm at the stage where I fully love my body unconditionally. I love loads of different parts of it in its appearance. I'm completely neutral and at peace with cellulite, but at the minute I'm not like, oh wow, I love the look of the cellulite on my legs, but I know that I will get there, because my tummy, for example, like the little cute pouch that I have that I would have been traumatized with, like, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, I'm generally like, it's so fucking cute. It's like a cute little pudgy, like where all my little yummy food goes, you know?
Yeah, honestly, I think the more you do accept stuff, it gets to a point where you do end up seeing it, you do end up liking it.
Yeah, I love that. And let's talk about mirror work then. So I have kind of 2 questions in one here. So first of all, do you do mirror work, and do you mind sharing? And then do you think there's any benefit in avoiding the mirror for a small period of time? What are your thoughts on both of those?
I personally, for me, don't think that avoiding the mirror at any point is good for you. I think that it's very important to see yourself and accept yourself. It's like, if you don't ever see something, when you see it, it's going to be more of a shock. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're looking at yourself or spending time actually looking at your body and your sorry, the plumber's here.
The plumber can also join, as long as his body positive, it's all good.
But if you spend the time looking at your body and like just looking at each part of it, and the angles that you don't like, it's so much easier to accept it. And if you walk past a reflection or get a random picture taken of you, it's not going to be so disheartening and shocking, because you're already used to what you are.
do you know what? That is so powerful what you've shared, because that's what really helped me. I used to do the whole, and I'm sure you did too, where you look in the mirror and you have the certain angles that you look at yourself from, that you've got safe with, or that's acceptable. And then if you're walking past a mirror in a hotel where it's differently laid out to your house, you're like, oh
Yes.
my God, do I look like that from the back?
100%.
Primark changing rooms.
Yes, changing rooms are the one, because changing rooms have so much different lighting that you see, like the cellulite and the stretch marks and stuff like that more when you're in a changing room. So then you end up feeling awful from looking in a changing room, but it's just how you need to accept yourself in all states.
Yeah. And I used to use the changing rooms. I don't go out much these days, just all about online shopping that comes to my door.
It's easier that way.
It's easier. But then when I did go physically to the shop, and I used the changing room triggers as a way to heal and to do my body image work, and to sit with that and to be like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm having a trigger or a really difficult feeling about what I look like from behind in this lighting. And that's okay.
100%.
And who the fuck even cares? And I get to eat pizza whenever the fuck I want. And it's just it just brings everything back down to groundedness. And also, like, one of my clients' grandmas, this is so sad, Ellie, she's 97 and she weighs herself every day and she still counts calories.
That is honestly so heartbreaking. That really is.
Isn't it? And the thing is, many women think, oh, when I'm older, I won't care as much, or when but then here's the thing, two things. Number one, if you don't change your perception of yourself, no matter how fucking old you are, nothing will change. You will still be in the rigid mindset and the body hate that you're in. And number two, is that a life that you want for yourself? Like,
100%.
Wow.
You no one in the world should live that way. No one should. We all deserve to have a happy life and food freedom, and to live the life that we want without focusing on our bodies.
And leads, this conversation is like leading me perfectly onto my questions that you have not got in front of you. But in terms of confidence, so I believe confidence is the sexiest thing you can wear, cliche or not. I'm taking
100%. 100%.
But how can someone, so let's talk about intimacy here. So I guess intimacy, and then the whole bikini thing, which is most women's like freak out moment. How can we be confident when we don't feel that we like the way we look in lingerie or a bikini? How does that work?
For me, it's focusing on the internal factors of myself, like realizing what about my mindset makes me sexy. What about who I am makes me sexy? And then that shines from within out, and then in a bikini or in lingerie or whatever, you see that you know who you are, and you know what you love internally about yourself, and that shines out.
Oh, I literally have like a cold shiver with that. It's so fucking true, because, you know, people, and I'm sure you get this a lot, people say, oh, you're just like glowing or something, and I'm like, it's because I'm happy.
Yes,
I'm just
happy. You're finally not focused on your body.
Yeah. And I remember the first time that I was intimate, because I've had, like, my fiance Walter, I met him when I had bulimia, so I met him when I was in the disordered eating, like 2.5 stones smaller, and then we've been on this journey together, and we've grown together, and he's been a very safe space for me to explore accepting my body during intimacy and all of that. And I remember the first time I was able to be intimate with him without giving a shit if the light was on or off, if the curtain was open or not, like without caring if my body would look a certain way depending on what position we're doing, to just be fully in my body and experience the pleasure that my incredible body can give to me.
Yes.
And he doesn't care about roles or so, like, he just, I mean, most men, I'm sure, care about the obvious.
Yes.
And your energy, your sexual
100%.
vibe.
We often think that whoever we're attracted to is not going to like these little parts about us, but people don't notice that on other people. They notice it on themselves.
Yeah, that's so true. And we also think that other people think the same way about us that we think about ourselves.
100%, but no one ever sees that.
No, so true. And I'm going to read this because it's a bit of a long question I wrote here. And many women that I work with, myself included in the past, pleasure, that word pleasure, not just sexual pleasure, but pleasure in general, pleasurable experiences like eating the cake and like really being with the cake. Like I've had, my clients have a difficult relationship with pleasure. And so the underlying belief resembles something like, I'm not worthy of pleasure until I reach my body goal, or until I've stuck to my diet for a month, or until I look good naked. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of being able to receive pleasure and self-worth, like all kind of to do with body image and diets, if that question made any sense?
It does. I think pleasure is literally for everyone. And we're humans desire pleasure in every way. Like, we wouldn't get so happy by the little things in life, like eating and stuff. Like, these things create the endorphins that we need. And if that literal fact shows that it doesn't matter whether how you look or how you feel about yourself, because we all deserve it. It is a human need. And that is the main thing, and that's the main thing to remember, because there's never a need in punishing yourself from that, because we all deserve it. No matter how you are or who you are or what you look like, we all deserve pleasure in every form.
I love the way you said it's a human need, because I agree with that.
Definitely, 100%. Whichever way that you receive pleasure, because obviously everyone has a different version of it, but we all desire that and we all need that as humans.
Yeah. What I want to ask you, if you don't mind sharing, what kind of things bring you pleasure, like day to day, week to week?
I definitely love food. Pizza gives me a lot of pleasure. I love spending time with my friends. That makes me so happy. That gives me so much pleasure in life. And there's been times, obviously, with people that just won't go and see their friends because they don't feel like they're the right size to, or they've put on a bit of weight, and what if their friend judges them? But friends don't do that. Friends love you for you. And once you get past that, you get the main pleasure you get out of seeing your friends and stuff. And I'm a big advocate on self-pleasure as well. So that definitely gives me loads of pleasure every day.
Oh yeah. What's your favorite toy? Because I have quite a few toys. I don't think it's new anymore because I'm a bit old with this stuff. It's a Pro 2, and it's like a little suction thing, and it doesn't touch your clit, but it vibrates around it.
Yeah, I really know that they're my favorites as well. I actually have I worked with a company not too long ago, and they are my favorite company. They only have one toy as of right now, but everything that they stand by, the whole thing, I love. They're called Thanks for Coming.
Oh, that name's epic.
It's a great name, and honestly, the toy that they have, I use all the time. And let me show you this.
Yeah.
This is the bag that it comes in, and it's got this picture on the front.
Oh, that is so nice.
And then this here.
Wow. What does it? I want to see the goods. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to open up.
Absolutely. And they are all about destigmatizing it.
Yes, I've not got the name, but the similar. That's awesome, and I love the cover.
And they're all about destigmatizing self-pleasure and stuff, and making it like, because it's not spoke about with women where it's always spoke about with men, and they change that narrative. And honestly, I know the person who owns it personally as well, and she is amazing with what she believes about with it, because it's so important. We've been taught for so long that it's not okay for us to do it, but it's important. It's one of the pleasures that we need.
Yeah. And with the porn industry, again, like in terms of women's bodies and comparison, I've had a client before that has had a lot of shame around the way her vulva looks, because it doesn't look like the typical porn women's vulva. And even that, and even the way we feel pressure as women to show up for men for sex, because men have also been conditioned into all the things that that we're all aware of. I'm so pleased that there are companies like Thanks for Coming. I love that. I'm going to link that in the show notes as well, that is destigmatizing all of this. And I love how you and I can just have a normal, open, relaxed conversation without being like, oh, we said the word
100%.
clitoris. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like chocolate, clitoris, pizza, the gym.
Exactly. All the pleasures.
Yeah, that's so true. And okay, I have one last question. And then if we have time, which I think we might, we'll see. I want to ask you personally 4 questions that I ask myself when I get into bed every day. So let's see if we have time at the end. If you could give 3 tips that you think are the most powerful in order to help someone who is really struggling with self-confidence, doesn't like the way their body looks, what would you say to them if they're starting out at the beginning of their like body positive journey?
Well, one of them will be to not avoid the way they look. I truly believe that looking at yourself naked in a mirror helps the most, but I understand it doesn't, it's not that easy to do that. And what I usually tell people to do is start simple, like something like shorts and a vest, so you can still see your body but you can't see it fully and wholly. And then as much as and then you'll move on, and then you can try with underwear, and then you can move on, and then eventually you can get to a time where you can see yourself naked. And that really helps. That's definitely my first tip. My other tip is who you follow on social media. Very, very important, because even when we don't realize this stuff is affecting us, we're consuming it every day. And if we're seeing the stuff that is going to make us feel insecure every day, it's just not going to help. If we see stuff that we're maybe not accepted yet, but we're seeing other women accept, that can help so much, because it makes you realize that it's not really as bad as you think it is. And when you see these things on other people, you can see them in a better light, because we aren't harsh on other people like we are to ourselves. And my last and final and foremost tip that is very important to me, and I feel is the one thing I stand by the most, because it applies with everything, is treat yourself how you would your best friend or someone you love. Because you would never look at your best friend, in my case my best friend, because I love my best friends, you'd never look at your best friend and judge them for the way they looked or how they was, or whether they had gained weight or whether they had lost weight. And you would never say something horrible to your best friend like you do to yourself. You would never do that. And when you like stop doing that and stop treating yourself so meanly and seeing yourself as a best friend, you are naturally kinder to yourself, which naturally makes it easier.
Yeah, and one of my tagline, if you like, for what I do on my website is, I help women to make peace with food, become besties with their body, and fall in love with themselves.
I love that.
About building that relationship and being kind to ourselves, because like attracts like. And it's like if you had a roommate that you was living with, like physically, and the roommate was a clone of you, and it was saying everything that you say to yourself unkindly to yourself in your head, not long after a couple of hours or a day, you'll be like, get the fuck out of my house.
100%.
Yet it's always going on in our head. So if you imagine like the self-talk is a physical roommate, wouldn't you want someone who's like, yay, have a nice day, and like, yeah, go you can do it, like, come here sweetheart, you need a hug, other than like, well, you're not good enough. And that for me was like a huge visualization representation for me that helped me to be kinder to myself. And now if I'm unkind to myself, it feels so wrong.
100%. Even if I have the slight thought of it, I'm like, no, don't say that. And naturally that becomes how you act to yourself.
Oh, exactly that, 100% naturally. Okay, can I ask you like the 4 questions?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this is it's not mine, from Gina Swire's podcast, and she had a guest on called, I can't think of his last name, James, his first name is, and he gave her these journaling questions, and I only like to journal when I feel like it. So in bed, I ask myself these 4 questions, and it's so powerful. So number 1, what good have you done for the world today?
Today, I guess this podcast.
Exactly. Incredible. Number 2, what did you learn about yourself or the world today so far?
Actually, I have quite bad anxiety. I don't show that very often, but I do. And with stuff like this, like just knowing that it's being recorded and stuff, I get really nervous. So I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone today, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that.
I'm proud of you too, and thank you again so much for being here, and thank you for being vulnerable.
Thank you. I've had fun. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. And we're not over yet. I've got 2 more questions, but I just want to really acknowledge you for, number one, sharing that, and number two, for pushing past that fear and giving so much value. I
think it's so important with anxiety. The only thing you really can do is push yourself. And sometimes you do need to just listen to yourself and not do that thing. But sometimes you do need to push yourself, and it helps you better with it.
I agree with that. And also being in the present moment helps me with anxiety.
Definitely.
Being like, okay, what can I see in the room that's blue? And then just like grounding yourself.
100%.
Just taking a breath and being like, okay, so my head is like 5 fucking years into the future right now, but I'm only here, and I'm only here now. So it's only now I have to deal with.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I really like that.
Yeah, try that one. Okay, the next question, the third question is, what are you grateful for about today specifically, or in general?
Well, I speak about it a lot, as you've probably seen, but I'm grateful that I'll be with my friends today.
And last question, what are you most excited about for tomorrow?
For tomorrow? Honestly, for what the day brings, because I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow, but I just like being surprised. So whatever the day will bring for me.
I love that, Ellie. Oh, thank you so much. And by the way, do you work with women like in a coaching capacity or a mentorship capacity? How can they come into your world? And then if they can work with you, how?
I haven't done that yet, but I am planning to do that at some point. So I think there will be a time where people can come to me for that, and probably I'm going to say, let's hope for the end of the year. By the end of the year, that something like that will happen.
That is so exciting. You'd be the most incredible body image self-love coach.
Thank you.
That's very exciting. So to follow Ellie, obviously everything will be linked below, obviously, but what if they want to stalk you like right now? What's your Instagram handle?
Ellie Sweet X, and Sweet is actually my real surname, because no one ever thinks.
Isn't that epic? I love that.
Yeah, so many people think it's just a stage name.
But it's not your porn name, it's not your stage name, it's your real name.
It's my real name. But yes, Ellie Sweet X is my handle.
Thank you, Ellie, and thank you for your time, for your wisdom, for your energy. It's been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I love all of the work that you do and you've done, and it's honestly incredible how much you've overcome yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I love you, and listeners, I love you too. And Ellie will be speaking, I'm sure, in the DMs, but thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And thank you again, Ellie. Much love.
Thank you.
Bye.